So let's get to the Lakers, because it is fascinating on how we've kind of glossed over that. You're reading, and again, I take your word for it. Like, you're reading all of these reports, and here they are again, not including Frank Vogel or Rob Pelinka in the discussions with a potential star player, and they're handcuffed not being able to put a team around LeBron and Anthony Davis because they're waiting on Kawhi Leonard.
Right.
What's the sense of what's going on with the Lakers outside of their pursuit of Kawhi Leonard?
It's all about Kawhi Leonard. I mean, that's the heart of it. And so and as Kawhi looks at this, I'm sure Uncle Dennis and Kawhi are doing their due diligence. There are a lot of questions there in terms of who's running it. I said this from the very beginning. How is it that you can have a guy like Magic Johnson who accuses Rob Pelinka, the GM, of stabbing him in the back, does so publicly,
right,
but then Magic is going to come out and say, hey, you should go work with these guys. I get that he's a Laker for life and he's beholden to the organization, but still, you're asking a guy to go work with someone that you said was a backstabber.
You know what it reminds me of? Again, and this reference now becomes dated. Caddyshack.
Yeah.
When Rodney Dangerfield walks into the pro shop and says, "Oh, look at this hat! This is the worst looking hat I've ever seen." What do you get, a free bowl of soup with this hat? And he turns around and he sees the Judge Smales.
Yeah.
Oh, but it looks good on you.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's like, this is the worst franchise I've ever seen. Oh, but Kawhi, it looks good on you.
Yes.
Like, does Kawhi think he's the dumbest human being on earth?
Yeah.
Okay, so they don't get Kawhi. What does their team look like?
That's where it really gets difficult, because I think there are a lot of guys, the Andre Iguodala types, who, if Kawhi gets there, they suddenly look at the opportunity, well, let's go get another ring. If Kawhi is not there, then that doesn't have the same appeal. And I think you're going to see those type of veterans disperse, and you'll have a good team. You could have a competitive team. You now maybe have to up your offer to a Rajon Rondo, who's been offered a minimum to come back and hasn't agreed to that yet. So you're going to have to spend some of that money to get guys that you had otherwise hoped would come there on the goodwill of winning a ring.
You said, just sit down, this is 5-7 minutes ago, you said somebody within the Lakers organization you had just talked to thinks he's going to Toronto. Let me just ask you, though, in your basketball opinion, what do you think the best place for him is?
Right now, I would say Toronto, simply because he's familiar with them. They have young players like Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet, who I would expect are going to get better. He has a familiarity with Nick Nurse and vice versa. He's worked things out with Kyle Lowry. And just in terms of what he's allowed to do, I mean, San Antonio, he had to do what we would expect he'd have to do if he goes to the Lakers, which is not everything's run for you. Sometimes you're going to have to play off the ball. And are you really comfortable with that at this point? You know this, Doug. Once you get a taste of, you get to
personal
make
freedom.
all the decisions.
Once you get a taste of personal freedom,
you get to play. And I get where LeBron has said that he will defer, but the reality is you have Frank Vogel, and I keep mentioning his name. No offense to Frank, but I don't see Frank being able to ride herd on LeBron and AD and Kawhi. It's going to end up being the LeBron show, as it always is.
What do you think of the decision the Knicks made? And look, some of this is trying to craft a way in which they're like, well, we didn't know about his Achilles tendon, but I personally kind of buy it. Like they've bought in a bad bale of goods, for lack of a better term. They bought the Brooklyn Bridge before, right?
Sure.
Amari Stoudemire, no, don't worry, his knee's fine. No, it's not fine. Eddie Curry, don't worry about his heart, not a problem. It is a problem.
Yeah.
Did the Knicks actually make the right decision?
Potentially. I mean, there's still a team to be built. There's still the next step to be taken. But in April, May, before the Achilles injury, they were working under the assumption, for good reason, that Kevin Durant was going to be a New York Knick. And they were comfortable with the idea of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving coming as a package, because Kyrie Irving wouldn't be the leader of the team. He wouldn't be the lone star on the team. The Achilles changed everything. And it changed everything in the last week or two prior to free agency.
Think about this. The Achilles injury changed who the champion was.
Yep.
And because of who the champion was, it might have changed where Kawhi Leonard plays next year.
Right.
And it changes where Kevin Durant likely plays. And it might have changed where either Kemba Walker or Kyrie Irving play.
Right.
Like, that's how big that injury actually was. All right, last thing. Tonight we're going to see R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson. The Knicks have an NBA roster. The Pelicans don't.
This is the thing that gets me is that it's being presented as RJ versus Zion.
Right.
It's really going to be Mitchell Robinson versus Zion potentially. And this is it's always amazing to me to watch guys who have played in the NBA, even if they haven't played, even if they just spent a year in the NBA.
Completely different dudes.
And they come back to Summer League and they dominate.
Right. It's like when you played at college, you go back to high school.
Yeah.
Or you go to a high school party and you're like, man, this is a little bit too easy. Ric Bucher from Fox Sports 1, all of our shows, and Fox Sports Radio and Bleach Report. Thanks so much, Buke.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.